you need to listen to the consumer and test things out is the same as the advice to anyone in a SaaS company, an AI company, any other company out there. But what I'm hearing from you is that the costs are so much higher in the CPG space, the upfront hard costs that you can't recover when you make that mistake.
Possibly one of the biggest mistakes we made, Alex, is we launched this into Target and Walmart. And this looks like automotive cleaner when it's a shampoo. This almost looks like an upgraded version of WD-40. This is what we currently sell today. We applied lessons that we were reading and hearing from a bunch of tech founders towards an inventory-based business that has a long sales cycle and that oftentimes, people don't know this.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Liberty Ventures podcast. I'm Alexander McCobin, founder and CEO of Liberty Ventures, which is building the ecosystem of values-aligned business leaders, investors, executives, and entrepreneurs who are all committed to advancing a free and prosperous future and helping you scale your businesses in order to scale your impact in the world. And today, I am just absolutely thrilled to have David Simnick joining us on the podcast to share his incredible insights. He is just one of the most incredible entrepreneurs out there, founder of Soapbox that has grown tremendously since its founding years ago. And he's just going around doing so many incredible things, incredibly purpose-driven, and has a whole lot to share. And David, really just thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Well, Alexander, I do not deserve half of what you just said. I don't even know if I deserve all of it. But just such a humbling honor to be here. Please know it's been a whole team effort. I'm a co-founder. There are others that have helped us build from day one, ever since, I started making soap and other products in my college dorm. So it's been a wild ride, all 14 years of it, and hopefully many to come.
I have no doubt there's many more to come, and that's actually a good reminder for us to get Ajay on here as well. But let's actually go back to that story. So I want you to be able to share the story of the founding of Soapbox, but also just your personal story. What led you to doing this in the first place, and how you see yourself having grown as a leader over the last 14 years.
Yeah, so Soapbox is a story all about our mission. So I used to work for the United States Agency for International Development as a subcontractor. I wanted to change the way that we were doing a lot of our water sanitation and hygiene work. So I thought that we could start a company that had a similar one-for-one component like Tom's or Bombas or Warby Parker, and that each and every one of our products that we sold would allow for the creation of a bar soap to take place in local communities around the world, as well as donations happening to local homeless shelters and food pantries and women and children abuse centers right here in the United States. And what's interesting is that food stamps don't cover hygiene products, so there's actually a pretty significant need within food pantries for these particular items. But the other aspect that I thought was really fascinating early on is, when you look at what clients need within a homeless shelter program, a bunch of people donate gently used clothing or coats or whatever it might be, and that takes care of a client for a season, maybe two. But if they have a shower program, there's a consistent daily use of how much they need of various different hygiene products. So that's really where we thought, hey, free enterprise could really fill a gap here, and that people are voting with their dollars and they want brands that represent their values and that they want to purchase from companies that are doing good. And we thought that was not only good in a sense that we're filling the need for those who need it most, but also it's good business, just because it was a competitive advantage that would be able to, compete and cut through such an incredibly competitive category.
Obviously, you're saying something that I love and that the Liberty Ventures ecosystem loves here. You're talking about being very purpose-driven, doing good in the world, using free enterprise in order to solve some of the biggest challenges that we're facing, and that doing good is a strategy for actually doing well, for building out a very successful business. But let's take it a step back. Were you always entrepreneurial? Is this what you planned on doing before? Or what led you to say, okay, let's build the business up for this?
It's a great question. And the answer to that is no. I did not realize I was an entrepreneur until I was lucky enough to graduate a year early in college. I then had the USAID what was an internship, then moved into a job. And I just wasn't really being fulfilled. So I was like, okay, well, I have this idea for Soapbox, and that's all great. But then I thought I wanted to go into politics, but I went to school in Washington, D.C., go American University, and interned for a ton of different organizations. I worked for a senator. I worked on a presidential campaign. I worked for DCPS, for the Army, for a quick stint. Didn't serve, just worked for the Army. And yeah, just wonderful experiences. But I thought that I always wanted to go into politics. And when I was, up close and personal, and in the system, I was like, I don't think this necessarily is the change that I want to make in the short time that I have here. So then, I was lost. I was 3 years out of college or 3 years and done. And, it was 2009 and a terrible time to be looking for a job. And I just was like, man, this sucks. So, I actually was training to go to officer candidate school with the Marine Corps. And it was the long process of making sure that you had all your paperwork in order that actually, during that time, one of my friends was starting a company, and he was like, hey, come help us out before you ship out. And by day 3, Alex, I knew, I was just like, this is it. I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. I'm meant to, I didn't know that I would love this as much as I did. And I just said, oh crap, this is it, 100%. So I called up I think the thing that I love the most about entrepreneurship is you can run as fast as you want. You can go so fast, and that there is a direct correlation between how much work you do and how fast you can go. And they're really, that's something where, and then if you build an amazing team around you, which, I would like to believe that we have here, and that, we have, I'm not like to believe, we have a phenomenal team, right?
Give them the credit they're due.
Yeah, right. I just why am I trying to downplay this? But no, we've brought in people from Unilever and Nestle and Church and Dwight and bat way above our batting average, just because we have people who really love our mission and love our products and love and want to be in a position or an organization that empowers people to run as fast as they can. So that's, I think, one of the chief reasons why I just really absolutely love entrepreneurship is you can work hard and you can work faster and longer, and there's a direct correlation between how much you can get done.
I love that, especially since I think there are a lot of young people out there like you who think they want to make a difference in the world. It's politics, it's NGOs, it's almost anything other than business. But what your story highlights is that you can make a tremendous impact, and probably a bigger impact as an individual, by becoming an entrepreneur.
So I think that's true too. I think that's true in some aspects, right? I think that I met one of the former controllers of the U.S. Treasury, and, he was talking about what he managed in terms of size, and no private company is going to get anywhere near the might and power and the ability of the U.S. government to decide to, make public investments or whatever. But in terms of my life, right?
As an individual.
Exactly. And I've charted this out because I'm a nerd. Any other thing that I could have done, even if I was, at JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, or, I said, what is and I'm not saying that these careers are, safe. There's tons of hard work and there's tons of effort and politique that goes into rising the corporate ladder. But, doctor, lawyer, any type of, professional degree that I think that I could have done would not have led to the amount that we have donated. If we just look at dollar amount or in-kind amount, what our organization has donated, the team here has donated, most importantly, if you're listening to this and are watching this, if you've ever bought a Soapbox product, you have contributed to the 41 million bars that we've donated. And what that means from a dollar amount is that's millions of dollars. So like I personally could not have done that unless, we have built this type of organization that then can satiate that need. And the craziest thing, Alex, is like one I know for a fact, and this is so cool. And it's actually kind of sad because it's only till like podcasts or interviews do we actually like remember this one. But we know for a fact, given the studies that have been commissioned by our 501c3 partners that we get to work hand in hand with, that the reduction in diarrhea-related illnesses, acute respiratory illnesses, the increase of school attendance, as something as simple as the introduction of like soap and clean water into like a really well thought out wash intervention program can save lives, right? Like we've seen the numbers, right? So for example, we partnered with Rotary International, and we picked up the tab through one of our charity partners called Clean the World to do a 12-month intervention project. And we saw reduction of like diarrhea-related illnesses, like 90% within the most eastern province of India. We worked within this community size of about 90,000 people. 90%, like that, like that's insane. People died from this. So like so I don't know their faces, I don't know their names, but I know for a fact that our consumers have saved lives. And we don't want to be so bombastic where it's just like, you're buying a shampoo or just like, you will save a child, right? Like, like that doesn't sell shampoo, but it sure as hell motivates me through like some really difficult, moments and times when, the rigmarole of going up against Pantene and Suave and Tresemme and these gargantuan, brands that are owned by P&G and Unilever and L'Oreal and Colgate, and like, holy shit, like, I don't know if we can swear on this podcast, but I just did. Probably should wash my mouth out with soap, but like that is incredibly motivating.
We first met when I was running Conscious Capitalism, and you're talking conscious capitalist language here to me. What sounds like what you're saying is that purpose of what you're building this business for and the positive impact that it's having is what helps you get through the incredibly challenging times of being an entrepreneur, which everyone goes through when it might seem easier to call it quits or to just go do something else. Is that about right? And how would you convey your purpose with this?
I think you hit it spot on. And my purpose, I was on a hike once and I just was wrestling back and forth, and I was like, what am I really supposed to do here on this short time I have? Build organizations that solve really gnarly problems that make the world a better place. That's it. I think if you were to say, what's the intersection of what I'm passionate about, of what I believe I'm good at, that's a perfect intersection. And I think honestly, like for those who are listening to this and, they're at a point in their life, or maybe it's a reawakening, or maybe it's that you want to switch things up. I think you are best professionally, or your whatever. Like, I think the difference between a hobby and like a profession is it's that mix in terms of like, okay, what are you really, really good at? And what do you really love doing? Now, hopefully you can make money off that. Hopefully the market values whatever that intersection is. If not, it might be a hobby.
That's right. If it's going to be an entrepreneurial project, it better be something people are willing to pay for. But okay, let's talk about some of the challenges that you faced, or more importantly, how you've overcome them beyond just having this motivating purpose. What are some things that you've learned over the last 14 years for how to overcome some of the biggest challenges with entrepreneurship that other entrepreneurs can learn from?
We would need 3-4 podcasts to talk about all the ways that we've made terrible mistakes.
All right, we'll schedule those after this then. We'll just get started with.
I'll start with growing up, I had a speech impediment. And I couldn't enunciate like R's and S's. And I was incredibly fortunate. I got placed in a wonderful public school that had a speech pathologist. And then she did still Miss Mackenbrock to this day as one of my all-time favorite humans. She had a huge impact on my life. And I think one of the things that you've probably noticed with a lot of founder CEOs is that they have dealt with some type of struggle and or disability and or whatever, that they realize over time, going through whatever that challenge is, that challenges can be overcome. Is that, whatever the situation is, that most people are given the instructions from A to B to B to C in their lives, and B just wasn't there for me. Like I was given instructions with like half of it cut out, and you just realize that you got to persevere and you got to work through it. And I think a lot of the issues that we've had, and this is like, high emotion, kind of lofty statements in terms of like, yeah, you just need to work through it. But like, I really genuinely believe that some of the hardest working people have dealt with serious challenges, and they realize that it's momentary, and that through dedication and perseverance, you too can work through it. So that's kind of the fuel behind it. But I think tactically,
really quick for the tactics, I just want to underscore that point, because what you're hitting on sounds like the very nature of being an entrepreneur, which is to see a gap out there, to see a problem. And instead of throwing your hands up in the air and saying someone should do something about it, it's saying, I'm going to figure out a way to do something about it. And then therefore be able to overcome the other obstacles that you're going to face when you're going about solving that other problem.
I 100% agree. And I think what's really interesting is when you're starting from scratch, there's so much you don't know, especially first-time entrepreneurs. The hubris you need to be a first-time entrepreneur. Like, it's just honestly, and you need, it's kind of weird, right? Because like it's a very different skill set. The hubris and ego that you need to be like, I can create the solution for this problem in the marketplace. Yet at the same time, the ability to adapt and learn and figure out what you're doing wrong for whatever you're doing wrong kills your business or you. Not to be too super bombastic, like the empathy, willingness to like be self-reflective, fix immediately, like coachability, like those are different skill sets, and sometimes like exactly opposite skill sets. So I think there's definitely a very strong correlation between grit and the success that I see in entrepreneurs. Like, can this person figuratively take a couple punches in the face and will they be fine?
And sometimes they're real punches, maybe not by other people, but you go through a lot of physical pain in this too. Now I derailed from talking about a tactical suggestion for what to do, I think. Do you remember what that was going to be?
I do. For those who want to start something in consumer, I cannot emphasize this point enough, which is like, you need to understand who your consumer is, and you need to spend a ton of time with your consumer. And then you need to like test what you want to launch with that consumer again and again and again and again. Possibly one of the biggest mistakes we made, Alex, is we launched this into Target and Walmart. And this looks like automotive cleaner when it's a shampoo. Like, this almost looks like an upgraded version of WD-40. This is what we currently sell today. The difference in sell-through of how many people choose to pick up this versus this in our industry, like in consumer and brick and mortar, is night and day. And I think there's so many things that like founders with that the hubris to believe that you can go and do something like this aggressive and build an organization. We're doing Soapbox is doing close to like 50 million in retail. And, we started at zero. But we would have gotten to that so much faster if we would have really listened to the consumer early on. And then we would have tested our assumptions with the consumer early on. And then especially, we applied lessons that we were reading and hearing from a bunch of tech founders towards an inventory-based business that has a long sales cycle, and that oftentimes, people don't know this, but like, if Targets ever have something on clearance, Target didn't pay for that. Like, the vendors are. So like, if you launch something and it fails out, like, I got to pay that through markdowns. I got to pay that through helping the retailer like move out of that particular product that didn't work well. So these type of mistakes are way harder to correct than like zeros and ones in terms of like, shipping a digital product and then fixing it and iterating it as it goes along.
Your initial point that you need in the consumer space, you need to listen to the consumer and test things out is the same as the advice to anyone in a SaaS company, an AI company, any other company out there. But what I'm hearing from you is that the costs are so much higher in the CPG space, the upfront hard costs that you can't recover when you make that mistake.
And Alex, thank you for sharpening this point. The next step to go with this statement is that like agile design and agile development really doesn't exist within CPG. Like when you're putting all this together, it's much more profitable to do waterfall development and stage gate and like stop and be like, no, we're not just going to ship this to stores and like iterate on the next time around. Like, we're going to actually take this to focus groups. We're going to like, throw this against the wall numerous times. We're going to stop and test again. We're going to test once more, like before actually like putting this out in the market.
So there actually are a fair number of CPG startups in the Liberty Ventures ecosystem, and it is, in my mind, a scary space to get into because of that high cost of entry and because you're going up against big competitors. It seems like people expect there to be upstarts who are able to take down tech companies or others there. That's the nature of that industry. It's a lot more challenging in CPG. So what do you think has been helpful for you to break into that space and excel so much, and for other startup founders in the CPG space to consider?
I think packaging is incredibly important. I think your point of differentiation is paramount. I think that really good CPG done really well takes an idea that people are familiar with and potentially puts it in a new form, or potentially takes something that has been used in another category and hasn't really been brought to a different category, whether that be a consumer category, whether it be a product category. Some case in points are, let's look at Liquid Death, right? Liquid Death is not different. It's water in a can, right? Like, there is no USP that makes their water better than anyone else's water. Their biggest thought process was, man, it looks cool to drink out of a tall boy. And they also were able to dial in that no company, like all the water companies, were either geared towards her or they were super functional, athletic, but no one was saying, hey, what about the punk rocker and or the Monster Energy drinker? Like, there's water company that is just saying like, I'm for you. Like, I'm your brand. And then we look at like Liquid IV, right? So Liquid IV is really interesting because that technology has been around for decades, like rehydration and how do we mix that into. But Liquid IV was interesting because it basically said, look, there's Pedialyte, and Pedialyte's mostly focused, but yet people know that they can take Pedialyte, which is essentially the same thing, for hangovers. And we're going to basically say, all right, we're going to go straight after this category. But even then, like, the really interesting thing about Liquid IV is the number one reason people buy Liquid IV is for hangovers. And if you look at Liquid IV's branding, packaging, or website, Nowhere do they mention anything. And it's super interesting, right? Because you have to then wonder,
that's intentional?
100% it is. And I strongly believe it's because there are certain vice categories that if you come out and say, which so many brands have tried, to launch a hangover pill, a hangover cure, a hangover shot, like all these things that, like, if you come out and tell me that you're going to fix it, then I don't know if I necessarily believe it. But if someone through word of mouth tells me, hey, this product that's supposed to be used for something else is going to really help with this, I might actually believe it. And I think there's certain categories, and we're like if you listen to your consumer, then these insights can come up, right? And through all these insights, if you're as in competitive categories we are, like we're in hair care, we're in skincare, we're in personal care, we're in deo, we're in men's, like we're in these disparate categories that have massive players, right? Like if you just look at the ad budgets of company spending in America, hair care is up in the top 5, right? It's autos, liquor, hair care. It's like, how is a company that was started in a Washington, D.C. dorm going to take on, the likes of P&G or Unilever? That's a tall order. So anyways, all that to be said, I would say for any of the consumer portfolio companies that you have, and or, any consumer entrepreneurs or people interested in going consumer, whatever it might be, get as close to the consumer as you possibly can. If you're a founder, go demo, go stand in a store, talk to people, listen to what we do things called shop alongs, kind of creepy, but we let people know, or we just watch what they're, what are they picking off the shelf? And then we go and ask them. We have auditors that basically come with us that we pay, that are professionals, not to guide them which way or another. But yeah, it's so helpful to just consistently get as close as humanly possible to where the consumer is and listen for those insights to get a competitive advantage over all of our competitors.
So second to last question for you, buddy, because this has been awesome and I want to respect your time. I know that you've actually got a focus group to get to tomorrow that you got to get ready for. But what's next for you and Soapbox? What are you most excited about that you're innovating on next?
One of my all-time favorite quotes is "Win for the right reasons." I want Soapbox to be a household name brand. And we didn't have the type of ascendancy that the other two brands that I've talked about have had, but ours has been a slow and steady growth, and one that we're incredibly proud of, and one that I'm so damn grateful for all of our consumers that have made our mission possible. But I would absolutely love, we now have the grant writing authority, and we hired someone full-time to actually manage all of the grants that we do on an annual basis. I think another thing that your listeners should know, especially given, the profile of your listeners, is we don't just donate soap internationally. Like, let's say, Alex, like you're a soap maker in northern Uganda. The last thing you want is me popping out of a shipping container with like 60,000 free bars of soap. How we change that is we work with you to supply the soap to all the partners that are basically supplying schools or supplying. So we just pick up, we help fund non-existing budgets, or we fund recycling efforts, and or we're the capital behind hygiene wash initiatives. So, not to consistently stand on my soapbox, but like that's why we do what we do. So to answer your question in hopefully a shorter time than it's taken so far, I want Soapbox to be a household name brand. I want us to do a ton more good. I want us to be able to grow into different categories at the right pace, and I want to win for the right reasons.
David, what you're doing is inspiring and awesome. And so my last question is, if anyone's listening and is inspired by this and doesn't want to just come and ask you to do something for them, but wanted to come and help you do this in some way, or wanted to help you with one of your key initiatives, what could they reach out and offer to do that you would be excited to get in your inbox?
Come to our website. We also have an amazing deal for all of the people who want to come and buy something, we're offering a 15% off first time purchase. Just type in Liberty Ventures 15, all one word, and then it's just 15, and it'd be 15% off your first purchase on our website. It's soapbox.co, which is just soapbox.co. But beyond like helping, us grow our mission by becoming a consumer, shoot me an email. It's just my name, David Simnick at soapboxsoaps.com. We're still trying to buy Soapbox, but the people who own it want $1 million for it, and we're like, ooh, that's a lot.
That's a little painful.
That's a lot. That's a lot for a domain. We're looking for. We always want to expand into new retailers. You can buy us at Walmart. You can buy us at Wegmans. You can buy us on Amazon. You can buy us in Kroger. You can buy us in Rite Aid, CVS, HEB, Meijer, pretty much any grocery store in the United States. So we're always looking to expand. So if you find us in a retailer that we're not, if your listeners and or viewers want to go to that retailer and be like, hey, there's this great natural, better for you brand that's mission driven, you should carry it. They take those consumer feedbacks really, really, really seriously. But, beyond that, shoot me ideas. I'd love to help other entrepreneurs and see how we can grow and improve. So just my name at soapboxsoaps.com.
Love it. David, like I said, you're inspiring. You're awesome. Thanks for sharing all of this with the community, and look forward to us getting together in person soon.
I'm just trying to be as cool as you. Thank you so much for the time, man. What an honor.